Hello, hello, fellow gross, nasty people. Let's get the obvious thing out of the way. We already did this like 4 years ago, but we did not do all of the games in the compilation. We only did one out of the four. Where's the rest of you? So let's do like a whole series where we look at all of them. We got columns 1, we got columns 2, we got columns 97. If you've ever had any crusty old computer science people in your life, there's that old joke about when Windows 95 came out and we had Windows 3 and then suddenly it was Windows 95. Where did the other 92 of them go? But yeah, columns 97. I presume this came out in the arcades? Arcades were already dead and buried by the time I was upright and walking, so I was never an arcade guy. Probably like a Japan-only arcade thing. They've always had a very healthy arcade scene. If you've ever seen videos of Akibahara, Japan's arcade scene is just something to behold. Just completely over the top with the number of cabinets they'll cram into a single space. They'll have videos where there's like an arcade where there's hundreds upon hundreds of cabinets all running at the same time. And while that's certainly good for entertainment reasons, just the noise of the place, it's like my autistic ass would just crumple if I were ever in such a situation. So gameplay-wise, this one doesn't really make any changes to the formula per se. The only real appeal to this one is that the blocks are 3D renders instead of sprites now, so it looks nice at least. I mean, that's something. You know, 3D was the in thing at the time, perhaps detrimentally so, because, you know, Sega at that time had that infamous CEO Bernie Stolar, and you know, he didn't want there to be anything 2D or Japanese on the Saturn, which was the two big strengths of the system, and as such, North American customers missed out on all of the very best Saturn games, including this one that you're looking at right now. There is that video I made a couple of years back just about Bernie Stolar, and I got some flack for that, understandably so, because that was a very tasteless thing to do, but maybe I did take it a little bit too far, but still the sentiment remains he did not do a very good job of managing Sega. We missed out on so many cool things all for no reason. All because some suit thought that the Saturn needed to do a better job of appealing to dude bros in backwards hats of the 90s. It had to look cool, it had to look totally radical, dude, and other 90s isms that Bart Simpson would say. Yeah. Bernie Stolar. He stole all of the good games from us. But anywho, just another thing I wanted to talk about. You know, as a guy who makes, gaming videos, I try to keep up with like-minded creators and people who actually understand this sort of stuff, and not just people who play Call of Duty with their backwards hats every day. Welcome back to Call of Duty, fellow gamers. Fuck, that's hard to do. Anyway, I still try to keep up with those two Oni Plays guys and their streams and such, and lately it's just been kind of sad because there's been all this weird drama, all of this tea, and all of it just kind of seems to be the result of just this mental instability and just watching the both of them just go completely off with their nut. It's like, what a disappointment to see these guys start acting like there's just black mold in their house or something. It's like, I used to think you guys were cool. When I was a kid, I thought you were cool. Even though I discovered you guys when I was like 21. But anyway, fuck. We'll do 3 rounds and see how close we can get. But just with those guys, you can kind of see a pattern in the things that they complain about, how they've just taken umbrance with pretty much every human being they've ever met. Just like this broken theory of mind where they assume everybody's trying to hurt them or rip them off. It's like that's not a healthy way of looking at life. Ho hum. So anyway, getting back to columns, so this has like a Phoenician theme. And if you've ever played the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, they made like a snarky comment in like the description of the game. It's like, actual Phoenicians did not have a Sega Genesis to play it on. Ho 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 ho. It's like, man, they're making these jokes before I can even think of them. I mean, it's a funny idea and concept, the idea of like an ancient Phoenician Sega Genesis. It's like something you'd see in a Far Side comic or something. You just saw like a caveman with like a Genesis made out of rocks. And it could only play caveman-themed games like Bonk's Adventure or what have you. There's potential for a joke there, I think. It's fun to imagine what Far Side Comics would look like if Gary Larson was about 30 years younger and it was filled with a bunch of video games and such. So a moment ago I briefly mentioned the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection for the PS3 and the 360, and can I just say that was a fantastic compilation back in the day. I got a hold of that when I was in high school, and it was just such a good way to introduce yourself to all of that retro Sega stuff if you'd never really known anything about it before. I mean, emulators are one way, but I mean, just to throw the entire library of like 700 games at somebody and say, just go for it, they might get a little lost and overwhelmed, and in some ways it's better to have like a curated list of all the good stuff, and that's a much better place to start. Yeah, that compilation's got my endorsement, but I don't think anybody really has like a PS3 or a 360 just lying around these days that they could just easily pop it right in. And the music in that compilation just on the menus kind of puzzled me because it sounded like a legally distinct version of the piano loop that plays in Closing Time, the one-hit wonder from the 90s, and I mean, thematically it makes sense to do that, you know, it's both 90s stuff, but I wonder if that was intentional, you know? And why Closing Time, you know, that's like a sad song about like getting out of a place. You'd want to have like happy, upbeat music for your compilation of Sega Genesis games. Yeah, I really liked that back in the day, but nowadays, kids these days. I don't know if that would really have the same appeal, the idea of getting like 50 Genesis ROMs all in one package, because, you know, there's just this unending waterfall of content every day and this unending supply of things to look at, and I think the appeal of having so many games all at once is kind of lessened. Just with the attention economy, there's so many other things you could look at instead. Perhaps the appeal of that wouldn't quite be there anymore, which is a bit sad. I don't mean to sound like an old man, but I do kind of worry about how all the newfangled stuff is kind of affecting the younger generations. I've heard horror stories about, like, you know, from teachers about trying to educate the new wave of kids and they're so poorly behaved, and I don't know. Anyway, I really like that render on the side of the screen. It's gone now, but the dumpy looking Sphinx that they had there, I've always had an affinity for old-fashioned renders. It's probably just a byproduct of being raised on like old Pixar movies from the 90s and old games and such. There's a certain nostalgia to crummy-looking renders, you know? So anyway, just speaking more on the aesthetic of this game, I know it's supposed to be Phoenician instead of Egyptian, but just generally, the imagery in this game is very evocative of something you would see in a casino, because there's often lots of Egyptian motifs in casinos, and most famously there's the Luxor, and Usually the games have, well, not all of them, but some of the games have Egyptian theming as well. And never quite understood the mindset, but anyway, yeah, doesn't this look vaguely casino-esque? Once we get to stat columns, that's going to become even more evident.